Do you feel like there is any way back for Ange Postecoglou?
No, I don't think so, Ben. I think, it's a matter of when rather than if, to be honest with you. I think, the big difference between, what Conte and Ange Postecoglou, if you want to put it to there, is the fact that Conte never went after the fans. Postecoglou keeps going after the fans, and it's irritating and it's winding the fan base up. And I just think, that Chelsea one, he's probably lost a lot of the last goodwill that maybe he had left in him, to be quite honest with you. And I just think match that up with the results. I think, look, I'm one of them. I have sympathy with him towards the injuries. The summer transfer window that we had, the January transfer window we had, I don't think we've done anywhere near enough to really sort of help this guy. But at the end of the day, he hasn't helped himself. I was watching the Jurgen Klopp documentary on Amazon, and it sort of reminds me of the likes of your Jose Mourinho's and stuff like that. They almost charm the media as well to a large degree, so that when they do go through tough times, they're given a bit of credit, a bit of leeway by the pundits and by the media. And Postecoglou is famous for not really liking the media, and I think that hasn't helped him to a large degree either. So I just think, look, I think I've said this since December, January. I think his future relies on how long we're in this Europa League. So I think he's got some big games coming up. I think after that is when a decision will be made on his future. But look, any Spurs fan I speak to on a daily basis, I haven't come across one, bar maybe a couple in my chat, that are maybe still behind Ange Postecoglou. A lot of people are just done with him now at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I've been done for a while, to be honest, as you all know. I mean, Sim has just about turned after the Chelsea game, and I do think that was, like you say, a massive breaking point with that ear-cupping gesture towards the away end. Ariane, where are you at with it? Do you think there is kind of a way back for him?
I mean, I think it's if we win the Europa League, I think people will kind of be obliged to give him something, some kind of goodwill into the season. But I do think like it has gotten so bad that there is a group of people now who don't even care. If we win the Europa League, they still think he should go. And I think once a manager kind of gets there, it is like near impossible to get him back. Because what do you do if we win the Europa League and we go into the next season like again we go 4 games, we win one, then we're in the same place again, right? So I think yeah, it's pretty much no way back. And to be honest, I don't know if I can see us winning the damn thing anyway at this point. Just when we're kind of just scraping through every single game, every league game, every cup game, even like I don't know. It's just gotten to a point where I can't really tell if any of the. There was a point where you could tell the players were just absolutely giving everything for him regardless. I don't know if it looks like that anymore. So I think it is just the beginning of the end, and there is a valid argument for saying that we have a better chance of winning the Europa League if we just sack him now at this point.
Yeah.
I want to know from you, Ariane, as a fellow Ange Anonymous attendee, who beyond for a large part of the season. When on Thursday, when he did that towards the fans, was that ear cupping gesture, which was something which I could not get behind, cannot agree with, and that was a bit of a breaking point in terms of where it told me about him right now, where his head's at and stuff like that. Like, what was your reaction when he did that, and what do you think that says about him and where his head's at?
I feel like because of the fact that I am a fan who's never been to a game, I'm less sensitive to that. So I didn't find it like personally as offensive, but also it's probably another side of it is that I am probably a little bit biased. I give the guy more leeway than like anybody. But also it's just that kind of thing doesn't has never affected me. I've never gone to a game, paid all that money, been through all that just to see a shit performance and then have the manager start. So I've never had that experience. But it is like I've also never seen it. I've never seen Conte do that. I've never seen Mourinho do that. Where it's kind of like I found it kind of funny at first, but the more I think about it, it's strange because uh, there's a lot of places that Ange can very it's valid to take his anger out on if he goes in the interview and starts like blasting off some of the players, the board, the media even. I think those are all valid, but to take it at the fans, and I think objectively speaking, the fans as a fan base, not every single fan inclusive, but the fans have given this guy a ton of leeway. I don't think there's many top six clubs who would have, I think even right now, at least a third of the Spurs fan base is Ange in, and that's insane for the fact that we are, what is it, 15th, 14th in the Premier League, right? Like whether or not you think that it's his fault or not, the fact that a top six manager is that low in the table and has more than 5% of the fan base behind him is kind of just a credit to how much leeway the fans give him. So taking it out on the fans, I think, is just the absolute wrong play. And I think the reason he's doing it is because I think he kind of knows it's like the time. It is the end times, and he's just trying to save face for whatever happens after Spurs. Like, look, it's not me. Look at me. I'm a genius. When Sarr scores, I did that, and you guys all booed me. I think it's kind of like it's a me against the world kind of thing in his head, and he's just trying to just go out guns blazing. I don't think going at the fans is the right move at all.
Look, I agree with not going at the fans. I think, you're going at the people that you're trying to get to support you and back
Exactly.
you, through these tough times. It's absolutely mind-boggling that's the course of action that he's taken. But for me, I don't think it's a case of Postecoglou trying to save face. Look, I know maybe not at Jose Mourinho or Conte level, but the guy's a winner. He's not used to being in this position where he's losing all the time. He's not used to, handling the situation where everybody's rallying against him. The fans, the media, the pundits, etc. Everywhere he's been loved. He's been adored. And when you put people in a position where they're not used to being, you can see cracks. You'll start seeing cracks sort of appear and stuff like that. He said he'll never really dig out his players in public. He's done that to the likes of Basuma, Werner, and stuff like that. He's going against some of the stuff that he doesn't like to do. But that's all because pressure is taking its toll on the guy. And you can see that on him physically. I always say when a manager's under pressure, they look very grey. They look very pale all the time. And, you look at Postecoglou when he first came here to the Postecoglou that we're seeing in the dugout now. The job has taken its toll on him. But let's not pretend this isn't the first time we've been here. We were here with Jose Mourinho. We were here with Conte. Conte in the fixture at the weekend famously walked out of the football club with an epic rant. We do this to managers at Tottenham Hotspur. We're bringing in these guys who are used to winning everywhere else. They're used to the club pulling their weight behind them and doing what they want them to do. We bring them to Tottenham. We go, well, we want you to sort of come a lot more around to what we want to do, and you sort of fit in with that. And they're just not used to it. They're used to the club doing everything in their power to get the most out of these managers and get the success that they've had everywhere else. But at Tottenham, it's always a longer process and stuff like that. And they're just not used to it here. And that's why Postecoglou is cracking under the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, back on your point about, this club just chewing up managers and spitting them out. And it just makes me think like earlier in the season, I was, get Silver in, get Iraola in, get whatever in. Like, I'm just starting to think, like, what's the point? Like, who is going to come to this club and actually do a good job under the circumstances? Does it even matter who the next manager is?
Just give it Mason.
Give it Mason, you know what I mean?
Someone we don't expect anything of.
Look, I'm sort of at that point now, though, where it's like, I'm not really getting gassed up over names that are being presented on the table, because the reality is, I think the first season you'll see it do well, and then the second season is where the wheels fall off the train. You know what I mean? Off the tracks, the train comes off the tracks every time in the second season. Jose Mourinho, it happened under Conte. It happened, and it's happening again under Ange Postecoglou. So for me, we can sit here, we can put all the managers forward. It's this brand of football. He does this, he does that. The reality is, we'll be here in 18 months' time yet again. This guy's clueless. This guy doesn't know what he's doing, etc., etc., etc. And that's why I've sort of took the approach. Yes, I acknowledge where Postecoglou has gone wrong, but let's not pin absolutely everything on this guy. We can't keep making the same mistakes we done with Conte, with Jose Mourinho. At some point the focus has to go internally, that we are not setting these managers up for success. We're making their jobs a lot harder. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. The reality is, people can sit here and say, bring in this guy, he's going to get better out of this squad. Okay, well, people said that to get rid of Conte. On evidence of Ange, have we got better out of? Have we moved on? Have we progressed? No, we haven't. So for me, I can't even buy into that anymore.
Yeah. Is there a world, I mean, Ariane kind of touched on it before, but do you think there is a world where he does win the Europa League and still goes at the end of the season, or will they have to keep on to him? I'll take that to anyone.
I think if he won the Europa League, I think most fans will want it. Will think he has to stay. I think at that point, because I know the feeling is right now. But imagine the positivity there would be if we had made it through a quarters and done well, made it through a semis and done well, and then actually gone all the way to a final and lifted our first trophy in 20 years. The good feeling around the club, everything changes at that point. We're back in the Champions League. There's good feeling. I think the belief within the squad would be so much higher because they've been through all this shit that they've been through the season and still come away with tangible success and achieve something that no no kind of player or manager has achieved in a very, very long time. And I think it completely changes the feeling around the club. So I think at that point, the thought of him winning Europa League and him being sacked I don't know, it seems a bit ridiculous to think that would still happen, albeit if we were to say finish 17th and he would win the Europa League,
what's the difference between finishing?
There's no difference. There's no difference in terms of there's no tangible difference as opposed to money and stuff. But obviously 17th would be. I don't think we've ever finished 17th in the Premier League before. So, it's hard to justify objectively finishing 17th, and then even if winning Europa League, people would say, look where we are in the league and stuff like that, and then a few bad games begin the next season and he's gone. I guess you could say the same, we'll finish mid-table anyway, but I think the clamour for him to stay will be too great if we actually win a competition like that. I think, do you reckon there's a chance he could win Europa League and then resign?
I mean, I think that would be the best for all parties. Do
you reckon he could say, "Look, I've won Europa League, I won my second season, now stuff you guys, I'm out of here"?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past it, to be honest. But I think if he does go on the win and win the Europa League, there'll be a massive kind of positivity coming out of the club, obviously. But I do feel like come the start of next season, one little of a dodgy patch, and then that's it. The fans are going to be going for him again, and I think if he does win the Europa League, even at the start of next season, he's going to be in a bit of a hiding to nothing. And one bad run of form, then fans are going to be calling for his head again, surely.
I'm not sure about that. I think if you win the Europa League, he'd be the most successful manager since we last done it in, 84? He'd be the most successful manager since then. So I think, at the end of the day, the reason why Spurs fans want him gone is because they feel like he's not going to be able to deliver success at this football club. That's what we demand of every manager that walks in here. We want them to deliver us a trophy. If he goes and does that, well, then we have to give him a chance. We always go at the board and say, you sacked Jose Mourinho before a cup final, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. If he goes on win it, goes on and wins it, it'd be absolutely madness to sack him. If he goes on and wins it, then I think there's, he can sort of come out and say, look, injuries played a massive part last season of why we were where we were in the league, et cetera, et cetera. But I think once we win a trophy, I think people will be surprised how much their mindset will actually change and go, do you know what? Despite all the odds, he's made it work. Let's give the guy a real opportunity. Because the reality is, any manager that comes in, the first couple of seasons, they're under so much pressure from the Spurs fan base to win something, that if they don't, we want them gone. But I do think if a manager can deliver success here, if he can go on and deliver that success, I think it'd be a bit like an Arsenal situation, where the fans, they gave Arteta a lot of time once he started getting it right, once he won that trophy and that to a large degree. And I think it'd be the same with the Spurs fan base.
Yeah, but Dave, you look at it as well, the last two managers that have won us trophies in George Graham and Juande Ramos, both got sacked in the following seasons because they weren't doing well enough in the league.
Well, one day Ramos, didn't they sell Robbie Keane and Berbatov in the summer transfer window? You sold our two best strikers. I think Harry Redknapp came in and brought Robbie Keane back in January, and we ended up going on and doing really well. But I'd argue, like I've always probably get into it, but I think selling Harry Kane is a much bigger problem and not replacing him than the manager at this football club.
I agree.
Right now.
I agree, but there's a realistic chance that we sell a Cuti Romero this summer, and some big players could get itchy feet with the season that we've had and wanting to leave, even with winning the Europa League. So what I'm saying is that there'll be some good faith and some real big positivity towards Ange come the end of the season if we win the Europa League. But if we go and lose, let's say, 5 games in our first 10 games of next season, then all that negativity is just going to come back, and then fans are just going to get really irate again.
I'm not quite so sure. I just think, the reason why fans are so irate at Tottenham Hotspur is because we're so desperate to win a trophy. I think once we've done that, I think the patience will start to come back in again.
Interesting.
I don't think it will, because I think what fans are angry about is the league form right now. We're sitting 14th in the league, and a 50% win ratio at the start of the season of 10 games and 5 losses is not going to be good enough, and that's going to be more evidence to suggest that Ange actually isn't good enough for this role. And it's to say that sometimes a team can win a trophy with a bit of luck there as well, and that's what people are going to say.
No, look, fair enough. Like there's always a bit of luck, involved in any. No matter how good your team is, how great your manager is, there's always a bit of luck in winning something. But I just think we're so desperate to win a trophy. Like that's why all the
Yeah,
pressure is on the
totally.
ownership and stuff like that. I just think once we win that, I think everything will just calm down a little bit, and I do think then more common sense will prevail around the place. So I just think everybody will calm down once we get that hoodoo off our back.
How do you guys feel about it? What do you reckon, Sim?
Do I think we'll keep him if he gets sacked?
Not keep him, but do you think, like, if let's say if he was to win the Europa League this year, and
Sorry, to keep him if he gets sacked. If we win Europa League, I mean, yeah.
if we win the Europa League this year, yeah, next season, if let's say we have a really bad start to the season, 5 losses in our first 10 games, what would you reckon the narrative?
Yeah,
would
the
be?
pressure will be right on him. I think the pressure will be right bang on him because people take these graphs and they take these fixtures, say, look at this point to this point, and look how many points he's picked up, and the pressure will 100% be bang on. Even if we'll win the trophy, I think if he has a bad start to next season, the pressure is going to be massive, 100%. But I also think, if let's say we do win Europa League at the end of the season. You're looking at the managers right now that we're looking to replace him with, Marco Silva, Iraola, Thomas Frank. Like, how attractive are those options going to be when we have a Europa League winning manager currently at the helm at our club right now? You know what I mean? Does all of a sudden, if Iraola finishes, mid-table, potentially bottom half, and Fulham are finishing mid-table and Brentford finish bottom half, right? Not saying, look, this is not me saying they've done bad jobs whatsoever. I think they're all three very good managers, and I don't think any of them could do bad at Tottenham. But I'm just saying that would the narrative be we've got Ange who's just won us a Europa League? Why would we swap him for one of these managers who are finishing currently potentially bottom half or mid table in the Premier League? Like I think the narrative would be what's the point in changing? That would we might as well just keep him.
I don't think that will be the narrative when after you finish in the lower third of the Premier League and then you get off to another bad start in the Premier League the season after. I just can't see that being a narrative. We chucked out Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, who are proven winners and have massive track records everywhere they've been. So,
but clearly we're not treating this the same, are we?
Yeah. I mean, the fan base right now have come to a breaking point. And if we win the Europa League, that will get refreshed a little bit, but the breaking point will be even higher threshold next season.
For sure. And I think rightly so. He's in his third season. And I think we would be right to demand much better performances and start to see some consistency and, all these different things. I think 100% if we were to win that Europa League and he stays in a job, I think the standards, you can't go on another season like this, 100%. We'd have to see massive improvement.
Reality is we ain't winning the Europa League, so all this conversation is probably a bit of a moot point. But
we're in it, so
we are in it. That's true. We are in it.